Internal CSS is the second way that we can write CSS that affects our entire page, or any single part of our page. To show you what I mean, I'm going to introduce you to the style element. We're going to write some CSS inside the style element. If you're not familiar with CSS, that's fine. You're not going to be tested on the CSS right now, as this is purely an HTML video, but you will need to know about the style element. So as an example, I'm going to create a div element here, and I'm going to give it a class attribute, an ID attribute, and a style attribute. Now we may or may not need all three of these, but what we do need is the style element. The style element should go inside of your head element. Now as a browser renders a page, it goes from top to bottom. First thing it looks at is the doc type. Then it says, okay, there's HTML in here. I need to understand and parse the HTML that's in this page. The head comes before the body because it's loaded first, goes from top to bottom. And in this head is going to try to render our CSS, any styling, any borders, margins, paddings, background colors, text colors, anything that we put in there that styles the page, that's going to be rendered first. The browser is then going to recognize that it has a certain styling to remember for this page, and it's going to try to apply it to the body once the body is loaded. Now this makes the page seem like it loads faster. Now browsers these days and internet connections these days are so fast, most people will never be able to tell a difference, but there are a lot of people out there who have a very slow internet connection, and they will be able to tell the difference. It should also be noted that the style element can actually go inside of the body. It works perfectly fine on modern browsers, but it should go inside the head element. Now I'm going to write some CSS here. I'm going to add a border, and in here it's just going to be a 1 pixel solid red border. I'm going to add an ID. Don't worry about classes and IDs. We'll talk about those in a different video, but right now I'm just going to show you how this works. We add the ID, and we want to say padding 40 pixels. Text align is going to be center. Now we're going to add a class, the border class, and we're going to add the ID. We're going to ignore the style attribute. Add text in here, and let's take a look at what we've written in our browser right now. Now here we can see that our text is in the center. We have our 1 pixel solid red border, and it does look like there is a padding between the very top border and the text, along with the bottom border and the text. What we told the browser was add a border, 1 pixel solid red, add padding, add a text aligned center, and have it affect our element here. So instead of writing all the CSS inside of the style attribute like we did in a previous video, we wrote it all inside of the style element. And the benefit of doing that is when it comes to classes. I'm going to add another div here, and I'm going to call this div2, and one more. And this one will be div3. Now when I save and I look at this in Chrome or any other browser, these also have borders. Now the reason these have borders is because the border class here affects all the classes in here. Now as a quick lesson in CSS, a CSS class starts with a dot, like you see here where it says dot border, can be applied to multiple elements on any given page. We can add a couple line breaks in here, add a paragraph. This is a P. Refresh the page. Got a couple line breaks in there, and it also affects the paragraph. Now the strong benefit about that is if we wanted to change this particular styling, and we wanted to remove that border entirely, we can remove that. Save our file. Refresh the page in your browser, and it gets rid of all of the styling all at once. That means you do not have to write style attribute is equal to border 1 pixel solid red for every single element. Because if you need to change something on a very large website, let's say you needed to remove all the borders for whatever reason, you don't want to have to go through here, look for every border, and delete it. Because this is going to take forever. Instead, what we can do is simply just delete this, and that gets rid of all the borders. Now I wanted to use the style attribute to let you know that the style attribute can be empty. Most attributes can be empty, and the style attribute is one of them. Now when we're talking about IDs, IDs are not like classes. A class can affect multiple elements. As I stated earlier, an ID can only affect one element. An ID should be unique. It should be like your personal identification. Nobody else has it. It is completely unique to you as a person. This identification works the exact same way, and IDs start with the number sign, hashtag, or whatever you want to call it these days. So your task for this video is to write the style element in your head, write 3 div elements in your body. Then I want you to create the border class like we did in this video. Give that a border 1 pixel solid red. If you're not familiar with CSS, go back to the part of the video where it shows you the CSS that we worked with and feel free to copy that. Then for each of your div elements that are inside of your body element, I want you to add the class attribute, and the value should be the border value. Save and open the document in your browser, and if you see a border on all 3 of your div elements, then you have successfully added internal CSS styling to your page.